Good afternoon. Happy Sunday. It is March 23rd, 2025. Today is my usual thing I do on Sunday, which is a spiritual reflection. And so I am going to be talking to you about this book. It's Mother Gavrila, The Ascetic of Love. I read this book, 15 years ago? Around that time. I've never forgotten it. Mother Gavrila, you could say, is like a Greek Orthodox Christian version of the Catholic Mother Teresa. There's some similarities there because she worked with, she moved around a lot in life, but she did work with lepers in India, as did Mother Teresa. I'm sharing this book with you today because I remember it very fondly, and I've never forgotten it. Now, obviously, I don't remember everything that happened in the book. It's not something I can totally remember. I do remember, though, that Mother Gavrila changed my whole worldview and outlook on life throughout the whole world, and to the better. I had a more empathetic, a more understanding of the world because of her examples and her life. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to read you this little intro part so that you get an idea of who she is. A couple of years ago, she was canonized as a saint. She died in 1992, so it took a while, but not too long. I think it was pretty evident that she was a saint, and I was waiting for the day that she would be declared a saint. So, in the Orthodox faith, they have the way they go about, as far as I understand it, canonizing a saint in the Orthodox Church is that it comes from the grassroots, means the average people, pilgrims that are around the person, their experiences with that person, that saintly person, some miracles through that saintly person, visions of them after they've reposed in this life, left the earth. So I'm going to read you this portion here, and then I'm going to read you some sayings of hers that resonate with me a lot. So I have the third edition book. This is from the first edition, this intro in this first portion here that was written by the book people who put this book together, the bookstore in Greece. This came from Greece, this book. It took a while, and it was very hard to get, by the way, for a while. It was out of print for many years. Nobody could get it. And if you could get it, somehow it was a lot of money. It was not cheap. Right now, you can get it used in good shape for $50. I just checked that on Amazon. If you're interested, but if you're not wanting to pay $50, I don't know, you might be able to find it at a cheaper bookstore than Amazon. Excuse me for my frog throat. I don't know why I have this all of a sudden, but in any case, it says, Gavrila Papayani, the beloved. She was born in Constantinople, that would be modern-day Istanbul, Turkey, in 1897 on October 15th, the feast day of Saint Cyprian and Saint Justine. She was the fourth and last child of Elias and Victoria Papayani, who already had a son, Alexandros, and two daughters, Vasiliki and Paulina. Later, her mother told her relatives that when little Gavrila came into the world 7 whole years after her sister Paulina, she had felt that this last of her children was special. This difference, this light with which God graced her, was felt from the very first moment by all who chanced to meet her. It was as if a secret door suddenly opened to reveal a completely new world, one you had always longed to see, even if furtively. You had the certainty that someone loved you deeply, of old, unconditionally, without you deserving it, without your knowing it. She used to say this is the way to love. This is the kind of love taught by God. You never think that you can possibly meet such persons in the unsuspecting everyday ordinaries of city life. You imagine them existing far away, up in the mountains and in the caves, or you visualize them living in those blessed early centuries. This is why you are greatly surprised when you are so fortunate as to see them circulating unnoticed among us, walking in and out of houses, riding in buses, flying in airplanes, visiting hospitals, going everywhere unobtrusively, clad in their subversive humility, which makes parting from them so unbearable. Her coming into our life has been a great unexpected gift of God, but also what a debt, because with everything she has shown us, the poet says, deprived us of a most convenient alibi. What can we say now? That such things are not done in our days? This we did not know. That we did not see? Yet we did see and we did hear how a person of our times, which we believe to be poor in sanctity, lives the gospel, breathes the gospel, applies the gospel in every thought and act. We saw it all. We heard it all. In her absolute poverty, in her communicative immense faith, in her loving obedience to God's will, which she loved unreservedly and wholeheartedly from the best to the worst of times. In her inexhaustible love, which the Lord had poured into her heart, a love she shared with us, and which was more than enough, flowing to all without exception, giving us a feeling of certainty and security like that felt by an only child. A love which gave wings to all of us in whatever we did. In her humility, with which she concealed her charisms, her many spiritual gifts, in her discernment, in her prescience, in her healing hands, in the tongues we overheard her speaking at nights, in the grace in which some of her children saw her, bathed in the light and rising above the ground, in her inspired guidance and advice, whether spiritual or practical, in the endless hours she devoted listening to people's problems and misfortunes, face to face or over the phone, in her knowledge of who was the right confessor for each of her children, in the hospitality which she was both extending and teaching so gracefully, with the blessing of St. Samson the Hospitaller. In the manner she was minimizing our so-called great problems until they became non-existent and were totally forgotten. In the way she was pouring in oil on the wounds caused by our failings, explaining why and how they had occurred. In a way, she chose the words that would encourage us to progress on the way and would teach us how in so many things. Like little sparrows, which carried by storks, imagine that they are flying with their own wings, we, who had the blessing and good fortune to know her, flew for a while, thanks to her, to other skies, lifted up by her own great wings, like penniless stowaways, on whose poverty God has shown his mercy. Wow, how beautiful, makes me cry. It is perhaps just as well that there are no words to describe her love beyond this life, for it is felt secretly, only by the heart, and helps us to go on, despite her absence. Her departure from this life brought us suddenly back to earth, back to our own poor personal reality. Today, almost 5 years later, remember this was written in 96, we keep asking ourselves, to what extent are we truly her children? How much did we deserve this gift? What have we done with the talent? Are we really following the way? For we behold and heard and saw. May we have her blessing. Laros, October 15th, 1996. Again, Mother Gavrila. She, you don't forget her. I mean, obviously, you haven't forgotten her. They met her, and she was amazing. And so, I'm going to read to you this particular, a few of her sayings. That I have here. Okay, so I'm starting with the ones that, I'm doing the highlighted ones that mean the most to me. It says, "It is not that which we say, but that which we live. It is not what we do, but what we are. If you have love for the whole world is beautiful. We desire our freedom. Why? In order to be slaves to our passions." Again, sometimes freedom to do, you have freedom to do anything. Sometimes that is not holy things or good things or pleasing to God, as we know. When the mind, nous, is not scattered in worldly things and is united to God, then the good day that we say becomes a blessing. God often does not desire the act, but the intention. It is enough that he sees you are willing to do his commandment. This, to me, is something I try not to forever forget, and I do remember it at times, because there is times when you want to just say, oh, what's the use? Why am I can't get anywhere? But I'm telling you, this was, it really hit me, this particular thing. So, let's see here. Let me move this over. Okay. It says, that one's one of my favorites. It says, when God created us, he gave us life and breathed his spirit into us. That spirit is love. When we lack love, we become corpses and are altogether dead. The Christian must respect the mystery of the existence of everyone and everything. The spiritually advanced person is the one who arrives at a place of no identity and who has understood in his depths that whatever happens is the will of God or by the permission of God. Yep, that's hard to advance to that level, but it's true. When you have thought of criticism, judging others, ask God to take hold of you at that hour so that you can love that person as he loves. Then God will help you to see your condition. If Christ were visible, could you criticize? This one also really, really hit me. What we say remains in eternity. So it's like, sometimes you say things that aren't nice and you're like, oh, please forgive me. This is not what I want to remain in eternity with, floating out there in the cosmos, right? Only when you are perfected in love can you arrive at dispassion, another important one, which means that you do not get upset over things. You do not have emotional outbursts. You don't have, your feelings don't overwhelm you, because you're in that state of love through God's love, and that's when you've reached basically theosis, one with God. When needed, God will send someone to us. We are all fellow travelers. Another really important one, the language of God is silence. Sometimes I hear people say, oh, God told me this, God, he said that, he said this. Well, how did he say it? I'm wondering what exactly they're talking about. So, interesting. Whoever lives in the past is as if dead. Whoever lives in the future in his fantasy or imagination is naive, because the future belongs only to God. The joy of Christ is found only in the eternal present of God. Yes, live in the present. And it's so easy for us to flip-flop back and, in the past or the future. I mean, I do it all the time, so it's a good reminder that God is only there for us in the present. That's how we communicate with him, in present time. Worry is for those who do not have faith. This really hits me hard, because I have anxiety issues, and it's hard for me to read that, but I understand what she's saying. This is about living not your will, but God's will, and know that God, she said earlier, whether permitted or it's his will, we must be okay with that. As God loves you, so does he love your enemy. This is also important. Because I think people think that people who do bad, God doesn't love them anymore. This isn't true. God loves everybody. God even loves Hitler. God loves Stalin. God loves, all these people that were mass murderers and everything. So I think what we need to understand is that maybe if we have a problem with that person, God doesn't. I mean, there might be some of the person's actions that are sinful and not good, but, that person is created in God's image just like we are. We should arrange to live in the world like the oil and the water in a vigil lamp, which do not mix and thus are in and for God, in the world but not of the world. When we have God always in mind, then God has us always in mind. When we think always of God, God always thinks of us. Never forget that you are His. That's a beautiful, comforting words, because you want to be His, because then you have His peace, His love, His mercy, His protection. 3 things are needed. First love, second love, third love. Yes, everything was centered on that for her. The only true joy is freedom from worry. This is true. Some want to go to the resurrection without passing by way of Golgotha. In other words, they don't want to suffer. But as we know as a Christian, suffering is part of our journey and our redemption and our salvation. God says, pick up your cross and follow me. Well, we know our crosses, each of us have so many. Those are our sufferings that we have to suffer with Christ as He suffered on the cross for us. And then the last one that I really liked was, our soul is a divine breath. Our body is His creation. In the whole of us, we are the icon of God. So, I just wanted to share that with you. And if you have any comments that perhaps you've read her story or you know of her, please share it with me in the comments below this video. Thanks so much for listening, for watching. She's one of my, I have 2 special saints that I love a lot of saints, but there's 2 saints that really struck me and have impacted me in my life. Saint Gavrila is one of them, and Saint Isaac the Syrian is the other. And perhaps another time I will read you some of Saint Isaac's homilies and sayings, because he is extraordinary, amazing. So, I will be back later probably with a regular news report. In any case, I'd like to if you would, please follow my channel, like my videos if you like them, share my channel, share my videos. Hopefully these things that I do, especially on Sunday, I hope that they are a comfort and edify you. I want to do the will of God. I want to do things that are to His glory. So thank you again. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Until next time.